What is the ego to you? You could say someone's ego is their sense of their own worth. For example, if someone has a large ego, they think they are very important and valuable. He had a massive ego, never would he admit he was wrong. In Blue Lock, we see this a lot with all the characters. The Blue Lock project was created with one goal in mind, to create the world's best striker. Characters in the story are constantly focusing on being the best and worrying about no teammates. Their constant drive to success is what fuels all their egos to the top. In Master Your Emotions, a practical guide to overcoming negativity and better manage your feelings, the author Tabat Maris goes deeply into ego and what it is, explaining how our ego works and how to be aware of it. First, what is the ego? Your survival mechanism is not the only factor affecting your emotions. Your ego also plays a significant role in shaping the way you feel. Thus, to gain more control over your emotions, it is fundamental that you understand what your ego is and how it works. Now let's clarify what we mean by ego. We often say that someone has a big ego, referring to the ego as something close to pride. While pride is undoubtedly a manifestation of ego, that's only one part of it. You may show no pride and appear humble while still being controlled by your ego. So what is the ego? The ego refers to the self-identity you've constructed throughout your life. How is this identity created? Put simply, the ego was created through your thoughts and as a mind-created identity, has no concrete reality. Events that happen to you bear no meaning in themselves. You give them meaning only through your interpretation of those events. Additionally, you accept things about yourself because people told you to do so. What's more, you identify with your name, your age, your religion, your political belief, or your occupation in a similar way. This attachment has no consequences. Are you aware of your ego? Your understanding of the way your ego works depends on your level of self-awareness. People at the lowest level of consciousness are not even aware the ego exists, and as a result are enslaved by it. On the other hand, highly self-conscious people can see through their ego. They understand how belief works and how excessive attachment to a set of beliefs can create suffering in their life. In effect, these individuals become the master of their mind and are at peace with themselves. Now that the ego is neither good nor bad, it's just a result of a lack of self-awareness. It fades away as you become aware of it, since ego and awareness cannot coexist. Your ego's need for an identity. Your ego is a selfish entity, only concerned about its survival. Interestingly, it's somewhat similar to your brain in the way it operates. It has its survival mechanism and will do whatever it can to persist. As with your brain, its primary concern is neither your happiness nor your peace of mind. On the contrary, your ego is restless. It wants you to be a go-getter. It wants you to do, acquire, and achieve great things so you can become a somebody. As we already mentioned, your ego needs an identity to exist. The way it does that is through identification with things, people, or beliefs and ideas. Now let's look at some of the things your ego uses to strengthen its identity. One thing is physical items. The ego likes to identify with material things. It thrives in today's world. Perhaps we can say capitalism and the consumer society we're living in today is a creation of collective egos, which is why it's been the dominant economic model in recent decades. Marketers correctly understand people's need to identify with things. They know people don't just buy a product, they all purchase the emotions or stories attached to the product. Often you acquire certain clothes or a particular car because you want to tell a story about yourself. For instance, you may want to enhance your status, look cool, or express your unique personality, and choose the products most closely associated with these ideals. Using things to create a story you can identify with is how the ego works. It doesn't mean things are wrong per se. It's a negative issue only when you become overly attached to material things, believing they can fulfill you, which they can't. Your body. Most people derive their self-worth from their physical appearance. Your ego loves the way you look because it's the easiest thing to recognize and quantify. When you strongly associate with your physical appearance, you tend to identify more easily with physical and emotional pain. Believe it or not, you can observe your body without identifying with it. Friends and acquaintances. The ego also derives its sense of identity from your relationships with others. The ego is only interested in what it can get from them. In other words, the ego thrives on the way it can use people to strengthen its identity. If you're honest with yourself, you realize most of the things you do attempt to obtain the approval of others. You want your parents to be proud of you, your boss to respect you, and your wife to love you. Now let's see more in detail how the ego works in the following cases. Parent and child relationships. Some parents' egos lead to the creation of a strong sense of attachment and identification with their children. This attachment is based on the false belief their children are their possessions. As a result, they try to control their children's lives and use them to live the life they wanted to live when they were younger. This is called living vicariously through your children. You see this all the time. Next time you watch a junior soccer or baseball game, watch the parents on the sideline to see how some react. Try spotting the parents living vicariously. They are the ones screaming the loudest and not merely an encouragement. This may happen mostly unconsciously. And then couples. The feeling of needing someone is very much a play of the ego as well. Anthony DeMello has a beautiful way to put it when he says, "Loneliness is not cured by human company. Loneliness is cured by contact with reality, by understanding that we don't need people. Once you realize you don't actually need anyone, you can start enjoying people's company. You can see them as they really are, rather than trying to get something from them." The ego's main characteristics. Here's some main aspects of the ego. The ego tends to equate having with being, which is why the ego likes to identify with objects. The ego lives through comparison. Your ego likes to compare itself with other egos. The ego is never satisfied. Your ego always wants more fame, more stuff, more recognition, and so on. The ego's sense of self-worth often depends on the worth you have in the eyes of others. Your ego needs the approval of other people to feel valued. The ego's need to feel superior. Your ego wants to feel superior to other egos. It wants to stand out, needs to create artificial separations to do that. Here are some strategies it employs. Enhancing its value through people. If you have smart and famous friends, your ego will associate with them to strengthen its identity. This is why some people love to tell others how smart, rich, or famous their friends are. Gossiping. People gossip because it makes them feel different and superior in some way. This is why some people like to put other people down and talk behind their back. It makes them and everybody else in their gossiping group feel superior. Manifesting an inferiority complex. This hides a desire to be better than others. Yes, even in this case, people want to feel superior. Exhibiting a superiority complex. This hides the fear of not being good enough. Looking for fame. This offers the illusion of superiority, which is why people often dream of becoming famous. Being right. The ego loves to be correct. It's an excellent way for it to affirm its existence. Have you noticed that everybody from Adolf Hitler to Nelson Mandela believe they're doing the right thing? Most people think they are correct. But can everybody be right? Complaining? When people complain, by definition they believe they are right and others are wrong. It works with objects as well. Have you ever bumped into a table and complained or even insulted it? I have. And the darn table was wrong to be in my way, wasn't it? Seeking attention. The ego likes to stand out. It loves recognition, praise, or admiration. To seek attention, people may also commit crimes, wear eccentric clothes, or have tattoos all over their bodies. Your ego's impact on your emotion. Understanding the way your ego works can help you better control your emotions. To do this, you must first realize your current story is a result of strong identification with people, things, or ideas. This intense identification is the root of many of the negative emotions you experience in your life. For instance, when life doesn't unfold according to your personal story, you get upset, or when someone challenges one of your beliefs, you become defensive. In short, most of your emotions are based on your personal story and the way you perceive the world. As you replace your current story with a more empowering one while, at the same time, letting go of your excessive attachment to things, people, or ideas, you will be able to experience more positive emotions. Conclusion. I think understanding our ego has a lot to say about ourselves. Knowing that inner power inside of us helps us to get into a deeper level and rise to our strengths. Blue Lock is one of my new favorite manga and anime, and if you guys haven't known, the anime just recently came out, and the manga is amazing as well. It really puts sports anime into a whole nother perspective. Thank you guys for watching the video, and take care.